Jordan Love broke out in the 2023 Green Bay Packers season. So how does he get the Packers to a Super Bowl? We start a series called What's Next, and we talk to Jordan Love about how he gets even better. That's today on Locked On Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And today's episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. We're back from Radio Row here on Locked On Packers, but that doesn't mean that the interviews are over. We are going to be playing our interview with Jordan Love on today's show as part of a new series here in the Packers offseason called What's Next? What's next for Jordan Love? We're going to talk about some of the key areas for this team. I feel like we already basically did a what's next for this Packers defense. Talked to some experts. We had some really cool stuff lined up from Radio Row as part of this series. And so I want to dig into Jordan Love today because there's nothing more important than what happens next with Jordan Love. Let's go now to my conversation with Jordan Love from Radio Row.
Jordan Love joins us today thanks to the new Old Spice Total Body Deodorant.
Old Spice, man. I got it right here. Total Body Deodorant.
Game
man.
changer.
It's a game changer. It's a good stuff right there. So make sure you go check that out and get you some.
So you had a game-changing season for sure. But part of that is you just have this new opportunity. So when you have this chance and you find out, okay, this is what we're doing, how do the conversations with you and Matt LaFleur change over, that first 6 months in terms of just this is different now, I'm preparing to be the starter?
Yeah, my first 3 years, that wasn't the conversation. The conversation was finding ways to get me better throughout practice and preseason, and just find ways to improve myself. And obviously now the conversation's changed, being the guy and bringing the whole team along and finding ways to get everybody better.
So you work with Steve Calhoun out in California, and he actually worked with Coach LaFleur on what you guys were going to work on. How did those conversations come about? Whose idea was that to say, hey, let's get with Coach and Steve and figure this out?
Yeah, we do a great job after the season every year. You meet with the coaches, have your exit meetings, and they give you some pointers on things you need to work on, things you did good. Obviously, Matt, he's a quarterback guy, so he's gonna, he's giving me drills to work on throughout the offseason, things he wants me to improve on, and we just connect with my quarterback coach because he's the guy I'm gonna be working with Steve Calhoun, and so Matt's awesome about that. Obviously, he takes a lot of pride in the quarterbacks and developing us, so he does some good things to get me right throughout the offseason.
When you hear last year coming into the season, guys going on, Dan Patrick and saying, Jordan's our guy, everyone in the locker room wants to run through a wall. I know you have confidence in yourself. How does that affect you? Do you hear that stuff? Does that matter to you? That you have that support?
Oh yeah, you hear all that stuff, and it's very awesome. That's all you can ask for, especially as a quarterback at this position, is to have that support. Me being a player that hadn't had the opportunity going into this year, just have that support for my guys. It means a lot, and it's just part of that special bond we got.
What do you think changed for you in the second half of the season?
I got some more reps under my belt, got a little bit more comfortable, and just trusted myself, trusted the process, trusted my decision making, let the ball rip, and trusted all the guys around me. And these guys stepped up and made some huge plays. So I think just the progression, getting more reps, getting more in-game experience.
All right, last thing here. How do you move on from the way the season ended? I know probably two throws you want back, certainly one at the end of the game as well. How do you move forward?
Yeah, you find ways to grow and learn from those mistakes, and it's all a lesson, man. It's all gonna fuel us to go forward. But now we've been here, we've been in the playoffs, so The expectations are going to be a little bit higher. But I think just more than anything, getting that experience, like I said, learning from those mistakes and understanding how small that margin for error is, and almost how perfect you got to be.
Is there a flashbulb moment from the season you remember? This is what I'll remember about this year.
Oh man, there's a lot of those. I think the turning point going through. What up, my boy? Great, bro. Good to see you, man. I think the turning point, Lions game on Thanksgiving, Chiefs game, getting on that run was the turning point. Just seeing how well we got to play and how well we are playing.
All right, now there are some platitudes in there, right? Some cliches. Oh, we're just gonna find a way to move on. We're gonna take it as a learning lesson. I would like to have heard more about that. We didn't end up getting very much time. He had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of people to talk to. And so I understand that part of it. I would have liked something a little bit more tangible. That being said, when you look at Jordan Love over the course of his season, he all but stopped throwing interceptions until that 49er game. He let the offense come to him. We're going to talk about the playmaking part of his game in a little bit. And what you have to believe in is that symbiotic relationship that you have with Matt LaFleur, with Steve Calhoun, and now Jordan Love, to put it all together and say, okay, they're going to figure out what Jordan needs to work on. A lot of the footwork stuff, he's taken and made enormous strides when it comes to some of that fundamental stuff. He is playing an entirely different brand of football than he has played at basically every level of organized ball that he's played his whole life. He's still getting better. There's still so much more out there in front for him to be able to do. And the fact that now this team seems to be built so well offensively around him that you just have to now build on what they've already put together. Matt LaFleur, okay, I want you to work on some of these fundamental things. These are maybe some throws that we want to major in a little bit more. We'd like you to be able to work on the deep ball accuracy maybe. Those are some things that are tangible, but you have another year in the system. Matt LaFleur talked about the value in 2020 of, it's not that there's something inherent about the system that lends itself to year two leaps. But we will talk about the system. What's next for Matt LaFleur is coming later this offseason. It is about knowing your personnel. One of the reasons why this team took off in the middle of the year, Jordan Love mentioned that flashbulb moment, that Detroit Lions game, is this coaching staff didn't know who they could trust pass catcher wise. They didn't know the full array of what those guys could do. And now they have a better understanding of all of that. So some of this is just, well, with a little bit more experience, they're going to be in good shape. I want to talk about some specific things Jordan Love can improve on to take that proverbial next step. And then we'll finish the show talking about the financial part, because the money's coming. The money is coming. That's next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks for being a valued partner with Locked On Packers. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. If you're not one of them, why not? It's demon time on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn 10 into $1,000. Demons and goblins are the newest, most exciting way to play Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts, and you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Plus, Prize Picks has weekly promotions that can lead to bigger payouts, like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. So what are you waiting for? Just because football's over doesn't mean you don't have a ton of great opportunities to win money on Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less It's that easy with Prize Picks. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now you can also find it on Amazon Fire TV. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find the Locked On Sports Today channel now on Amazon Fire TV. In the second half of the season, Jordan Love took off, and this Packers offense took off with it. And when you ask the guys, they don't really have a great answer for you other than we just started playing better. Things just sort of clicked in for them, and that can happen. And I don't know if it's a reflection, if it's the signal, or if it is the cause. I think it might be a little of both. If you look at the first 8 games of the Packers season, Jordan Love ran for 20 plus yards in 5 of them. Over the final 11 games, including playoffs, he ran for over 20 yards one time. And it was against Detroit when he clinched the game on a 37-yard run. And the big reason for that is he played on time, he played in rhythm, and when he moved from his spot, whether it was to step up, whether it was to escape the pocket, it was to make a play throwing the ball. Most of that happened in the pocket. But Jordan Love on the run, watch him at Utah State. Watch some of the throws he's made in the NFL, the touchdown to Jaden Reed. He has made some preposterous throws. He has incredible arm talent outside the pocket. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. And I was talking to Mike Clemens, our buddy, who covers the team, of course, every day. And, he was like, it's so weird because the great games that he's had this year are the best he's ever seen Jordan Love play. And that includes any of the days in camp. Like, this is just not the version of Love that they've seen. He looks better in the game. When the bright lights come on, he is better. He is a playmaker. It translates to the game in ways that it doesn't always to practice. And I want to see more of that. We know he can operate this offense at a high level and do all the things on time in a Matt LaFleur scheme. We know he can do that. What he has, the ability that he has that a lot of people don't, is when the play breaks down, to stay poised, to get to that backside dig and rip that throw a half second too late, or to escape the pocket and make that throw on the run down the seam. He has one of the most ridiculous throws I've ever seen to a running back against LSU when they're way overmanned. They get blown out in that game, but Jordan Love looked like an NFL player in that game. He looked like he belonged, even though none of his teammates did. He can make these incredible second reaction throws. Now, he has to be careful because it was a second reaction throw that ultimately costs them the game against the 49ers. But that's the perfect example of why this is important, because in the biggest moments, and we saw it with Patrick Mahomes, like that whole first half, he's trying to extend and make plays and there's no one open. They can't get to anything. Patrick Mahomes is right now the best in the league at this. You look at Jordan Love's numbers when he breaks the pocket, when he scrambles. It wasn't good. Even when he was playing his best, it wasn't good. Now, one of the reasons why he was playing his best is he's playing on time, he's playing in rhythm, he's getting the ball out to Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs and Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson and Aaron Jones and all these guys that they can attack defenses with. This is suddenly a loaded offensive group. And so if you just have to, play in rhythm, that's great. But we've seen, and we saw this, Brock Purdy did it to the Packers. Brock Purdy did it to the Lions. Yes, you can feed the Avengers if you have them, but every once in a while, you just have to make a play. You have to make 2 or 3 of them a game with your legs or scrambling to create a throw. Jordan Love didn't take off because he played like the guy we saw at Utah State. Jordan Love took off because he played like a guy we've really never seen before. He put it all together in a way we've just never seen. Now, if he can channel some of that playmaker, the first thing he said when he addressed the Packers media on draft night, he was asked, what does Jordan Love bring to the Green Bay Packers? He said, a playmaker. I make plays. And he's absolutely right. We just haven't really seen it yet. And to me, like, you look in the first half of the season, it's actually crazy. I mentioned the rushing yards number. Okay. But when you look at the interception numbers on the season, regular season, he threw 11 interceptions. Well, he threw 3 against the Raiders. He threw 2 against the Lions. He threw it against the Broncos and 1 against the Vikings. So in that 4-game losing streak, remember, he threw 11 on the season. He threw 7 interceptions in that 4-game span. He threw 4 the rest of the season. Now, he threw another 2 in the 49er game, but I think early in the season, you might have said, well, decision-making, ball placement, that would be where you would want Jordan Love to take that step, but he took it. He took that step. The decision-making was superlative. The ball placement, spectacular. I don't think those are concerns anymore. The footwork, yeah, there are some times when the footwork he can get a little bouncy and he can lose velocity. He can be a half tick late on some of these throws, but he's got the talent to just make it work. And his processing has gotten to a place where you're not really worried about it. He knows consistently where the ball needs to go, or at least gets to a place where the ball can go. And those are different things. I think there are times when you say, you watch live and you go, he's playing great. And then you watch it back and you watch the all-22 in particular and you go, well, I don't know why he checked this one down. This is open. Or I don't know why he missed this read because that's open. This is in the progression, we think, right? We're just guessing. We're not in those rooms. But it seems like that's a turn down, as JT O'Sullivan calls it, and it could have been an even bigger play. And that's how the 49ers game felt. It was just like you're just short of maximizing everything that you got out of it. And you heard from Jordan earlier in the show. He said, you almost need to be perfect. Well, and if you're not perfect, what you need to be able to do is bring out that playmaker. And you need to make the 2 plays or 3 plays a game when your team absolutely needs it. And Jordan Love can do it. What we saw in the second half is a version of him, again, that we had never seen. A version of polish and efficiency from the pocket. That was not his calling card in college. His calling card in college was the absurd second reaction, break the pocket, and make a crazy throw or run play. If we can add that back into playing from the pocket, Jordan Love can be unbelievably good. He's already really, really good. How much is that going to cost? We're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. DoorDash would save you a lot of time if you were having a party for a big game. Now you might not have to worry about that for a while, but guess what? You still got to eat tonight. You still got to have lunch. You still need groceries. Sometimes you might forget something. DoorDash can handle it all. You want to have lunch, you want to have dinner, you want to have breakfast, you want to have brunch. DoorDash. You need groceries. DoorDash. Come on. DoorDash can do it all. They are there to fulfill your eating needs. Football season might be over, but we got basketball, the school year, let's face it, winter. A lot of reasons that you might want to just order something up. Hop on the app and make your day a little bit easier. Get dinner for tonight, groceries for the week, or a consolation prize for your sad friends. Packer fans, man, you got to feel like the Packers could have been in that game, could have won that game. Probably should have beat both those teams. DoorDash, your door to more. Head to the DoorDash app to get everything you need delivered. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now you can find it on Amazon Fire TV. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today now on the Amazon Fire TV. Jordan Love proved it. And all the reporting right now is that he is going to get paid. Now, yes, the Packers want to pay Jordan Love. Jordan Love wants to get paid. They cannot do a deal until May because you have to wait a year after an extension is signed to sign another extension because the Packers didn't pick up his 5th-year option. This gets a little wonky that you have to wait. So they have to wait until May no matter what, which means they're going to carry the cap space that he provides them now. So that cheap number through free agency. That's good news for the Packers because if they had to put, a $50 million per year, now they're it's not all going to count in that first year, but let's say they did, that makes it much more difficult, even if you're able to create some cap space to do anything in free agency. So the fact that they have to wait until after May is actually a boon for them. It also helps them fill out their roster. So that's the win-win part of this. Now the question is going to be, where does this land? The reporting that we got over the weekend was that the expectation is we're talking about starter money, legitimate, hey, you're our no doubt starter money. There are 4 quarterbacks currently averaging $50 million a year. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes signed that ridiculous $450 million deal, but it's a 10-year deal, so he's technically only making $45 million APY. Derek Carr got 37.5 APY. Jordan Love is going to get at least Derek Carr money. Daniel Jones got 40, 4 years, 160. Jordan Love is going to get at least Daniel Jones money. Dak Prescott is 40, but that's a deal that was signed a couple years ago. So that's an old deal. Deshaun Watson got $46 million. That's fully guaranteed. That whole deal was fully guaranteed. That was also 2 years ago. Now, Russell Wilson got $49 million APY, average per year. That was after the Broncos traded for him. Did they have to give him that deal? No, but they decided they were going to. I don't think Jordan Love is going to get $50 million. And the reason is Jalen Hurts did. Jalen Hurts got 51, but Jalen Hurts had multiple years as a starter under his belt already. So they had a bigger sample size with Jalen Hurts. Now, similar situations, you're going into the last year of a deal, so you have to get these things done. That's part of it. And I don't expect the agents that Jordan Love has. He's got some of the most accomplished agents in the business. David Mulgeta and Athletes First, like they're going to get their money. Deshaun Watson, a client, they got him that fully guaranteed deal coming off of not playing for a year and some of the most disgusting allegations that we've seen in professional sports over the last 5-10 years. Still got that fully guaranteed contract. The Packers tend to want to structure these things where it's 2 years and then we'll see. That's not always been the case. That wasn't the case on the last Aaron Rodgers deal, to be sure. You look at the early Aaron Rodgers deal, it was much more like that. So they can do some shenanigans here. But it seems like what the Packers want to do and have wanted to do is get out from underneath the cap problems that they had with COVID, when the cap had to stop going up. And that forced the Packers to make these difficult decisions. They're also going all in at the end of these careers, kicking the can forward. They want to get out from underneath that. It's why I think Devondre Campbell is going to be gone. It's why I think David Bakhtiari is going to be gone. I don't think either of those are fait accompli, but I think that's the most likely scenario for both those guys at this point. They'd like to get their financial house in order. 2 years, and we'll see. Andrew Brandt on this from the beginning. He's in that building. He knows. The Packers don't like to do what some other teams like to do and say, okay, year 3 is fully guaranteed, those kinds of things. They don't generally like to do that. So this is probably going to be I'm guessing we're going to be looking at 5 years, 4 or 5 years, probably 4 on an extension. And so then what you can do is you can say, okay, 2024 he's going to play on this contract. And then 2025, you'll get the extension. He's got the incentives and all those things. Like, I think you could work it out that way. And then it becomes a de facto 5-year deal. And you add, $200 million. So it's like, okay, yeah, it looks like 50 APY because it's 4 years, 200. But if you keep him on this year's deal and then put it all together, it's really 5 years, 216 or whatever it is. And so then it's not nearly as much. You could certainly try to do it that way. I don't know if Love's camp is going to go for that. It's going to be 42, 45, 48. I would be surprised if it got to 50. But again, you can also, whether they say, okay, this last year, 2024 is going to be your normal year, and then the extension is going to kick in. They could decide, given how little money they have allocated moving forward, that they can do that and then eat more of it up front, which would be good for Jordan Love. Now, the signing bonus money, you're still going to spread across. And so you could guarantee a little bit more. You could say, okay, it's a 4-year extension starting in 2025. And, more of it is guaranteed than would normally be guaranteed because then you can tack that on. There are a lot of different ways that they can go about this. I don't think he's going to reset the quarterback market. And I think almost no matter what, this is a contract that's going to be worth it. Because even if they gave him a top of market money, let's call it 55. Dak Prescott is going to be up in 2025. Kirk Cousins is going to be up this offseason. Now, Kirk Cousins might reset the market before Jordan Love even has a chance to get out there. Now, he's probably not going to get Joe Burrow money, but he's going to go over 40. He was getting 37.5 from the Vikings. Jared Goff is going to be eligible. Well, he's already eligible for an extension, but it sounds like the Lions want to extend him. What is that money going to be like? These are deals that could get done this offseason that affect what Jordan Love's deal looks like too. And that number just keeps going up. It's going to keep going up. And that means if Jordan Love continues to be this good and continues on the rise that he's on, even at 50 or 52, you're fine, assuming the Packers structure it the way that the Packers tend to structure these things, where after 2 years, they can get out of it with minimal damage. But given the amount of money that they have at their disposal in 2025, they have very little money allocated. All these guys are still going to be on rookie contracts in 2025. All of them. All of them. Because if you think about it, the 2023 class, definitely, the 2022 class will be in the final years of deals. 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So, and Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt will have 5th-year options. Now, you have decisions to make. You don't generally like really good players, starting caliber players. Like, you probably have to get a deal done with Zach Tom before the last year of his deal. But this is going to be an inexpensive team in 2024 at the very least. And then probably in 2025 as well, because so much of this team is young, first-year contract guys. So you can afford to eat some of that money now. It's why, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, okay, whatever the extension is going to kick in now, and you'll figure it out. What the Packers are going to do here is only interesting from the how much is it going to be standpoint, because this deal is going to get done. And the thing about it is, I reject these, oh, you can't win with the quarterback getting paid stuff. It's silly. You just need to draft well. And you need to have good coaching. And you need some injury luck. Well, guess what? That's how any team wins. So, right? Like, there's no special secret recipe for being cheap at the quarterback position and all these other things. You still have to draft well. You still have to be well coached. You still have to be healthy. It's the same. And if we know Jordan Love is good, and we do, it kind of doesn't matter. It's going to be a lot of money. Back tomorrow, a lot more here on Locked On Packers. It's the offseason, but we're here every day still. Monday through Friday, still doing the damn thing. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, at Locked On Packers. Same thing on Instagram, same thing on TikTok, same thing on Facebook. Go there. We are crushing it on socials right now. The socials are popping off. And go subscribe over on our YouTube channel. Maybe some big free agent stuff. A David Bakhtiari trade. We have reasons this offseason to go live if we need to. So go subscribe to us over on our YouTube page so you can stay Locked On Packers.